All right, so we are back with our second episode, and I am delighted to welcome Tanya Roberts, who I guess it's no longer Tanya. Is it still Tanya Roberts, or did you change your last name?
I'm really conflicted about the last name change. I'll get back to you in a couple months.
Well, this is Tanya, and we not that long ago we had asked a whole lot of you if you had questions that you would want to ask a bride in the planning process. And Tanya is actually now a married lady. Your wedding was a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
There it
Congratulations.
is.
Oh, pretty.
Lovely.
it was on the 21st, so about, what is that, 10, 11, 12 days ago? I'm
12
losing
days ago,
track.
so the 21st of May. Well, congratulations. I have been stalking you on Facebook, and I have seen lots of the pictures, and they're beautiful.
Oh, thank you very
So,
much.
Did you go on a honeymoon?
yeah,
We're leaving on Monday, actually. This
Oh,
is my
cool.
last
Where
day
you
of
going?
work before we take off. So
nice. Where are
we're
you
going
off to?
we're going to Europe. We're going to the Netherlands, Germany, and
Sweet.
then Switzerland, and then to Paris for our last 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Jealous.
Well, I really appreciate you taking some time to chat with us because we did get a lot of questions that we collected from wedding professionals who did want to ask you. And I think we're going to just dive straight on into these. Now, Shay, you had actually been at a Knot event, which you've referred to a couple of times, and you've mentioned
Yes.
that there was a panel of brides there that
Yes.
were speaking about things in general about the planning process, but they talked about what they're looking for when they go onto a wedding vendor's website. So, Tanya, I'm really curious to know, because a lot of people have asked this question, what do you look at first when you were considering your vendors for the first time? Were you looking specifically at what they offered first, or was price a big factor in that process?
I may be a little bit unusual. I'm not sure if other brides make their decisions the same way as me, but I'll sort of speak from my experience, and you can take it
Yeah.
for what it is.
That's
What I
perfect.
look for right away is I want to see contact details right away, because the way I make decisions is getting someone on the phone and getting a feel for them, creating that personal connection. And I was thinking about this today, how you could achieve that on a website. So obviously price is a factor, but I feel like I want that information quickly. Give me the information quickly so I can make a decision. Don't make me leaf through a million pages. And also don't make it difficult for me to contact you. A lot of wedding vendors, I noticed that they would either not list a phone number, or you would call and they wouldn't answer. They wouldn't have voicemail set up or something like that. Or if you did email, it would take 3-4 days to respond, or sometimes they wouldn't respond at all. So the lack of quick contact was a big issue for me, and I noticed that's prevalent across the entire wedding industry.
So
it's
what,
that.
what would you consider an appropriate amount of time to wait? I mean, if you submit and 10 minutes later you're getting a phone call or an email, is that perfectly fine, or is one day fine? What is
A day.
it?
I would say a day. And it's sort of this, and I may be jumping all over the place from one question to the next here, but I'm sort of thinking out loud. So it's this whole, and that sort of attitude translates into how I'm qualified as a lead or someone they might want to work with. So it felt like the attitude was, well, I'm really busy. I'm going to spend a lot of time vetting you as a customer, whereas I'm trying to vet them as a vendor. So it's sort of the attitude of, well, you should want to work with me. I'm not
I will say this. I will say this because my wife owns a wedding planning company, and a lot of brides are looking maybe on Fridays or Saturdays or Sundays. Well, that's when we're doing events. So if you contact us on a Friday evening, we may be at a rehearsal, and then we're going to be there late, and then we're going to be at an event all day Saturday, so we may not have time to do it. So just so some people know that, I think it depends on the time that you contact the vendor as well. You need to be
days. It was weekdays I was contacting them. It wasn't weekends.
That's fine. Yeah.
There's there's stuff going on. I mean, even if there's a quick auto email.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, you should definitely have that.
Just it's sort of that lack of, and I don't know if the vendors feel like that communication is important, because maybe they have tons of leads and they don't need to get back to people right away, but it sort of feels like there wasn't a lot of effort put forth in terms of trying to woo me as a client. It was just already assumed that, well, you're contacting me, I've wooed you, that's it. Now I'm going to try and make sure that you're not crazy.
That happened.
And I work for myself too, so I know, yes, you don't want to work with every type of customer. There's limits. You have to see if you feel comfortable. But I think there needs to be a bit more room for me to do my own vetting process with those vendors. I didn't see a lot of room there for me to get on the phone with them or get an email back quickly and, just jump on the phone and talk for 5 minutes. It was very sort of restrictive in terms of how the contact was handled. It was, okay, well, answer my 100 questions over email before I talk to you on the phone. But all I wanted was 5 minutes on the phone, and I can get a sense of a person and determine whether I'm comfortable. So working with them, the main factor in my decision was, am I comfortable with you? Do we get along on a personal level? Because this is someone I'm going to have to deal with on my wedding day, and I don't want, I didn't want that extra stress of a personality that would conflict with mine. So I wanted to make sure that was all good before we talked about price and things like that. And that would probably be my second question. What's your price? What does that look like?
Brenda and I actually talk about the contact form a lot because so many people have, they want to know your life story. They want to know how you met. They want to know everyone's name. They want to know
fields to fill in, all mandatory.
What venue you're going to be at, how many guests count, and those are all valid questions. But you don't need to know that from the very beginning. I'm with you. It's almost like an opt-in for anything. The least amount of information you can provide while still getting the point across. And for us, a phone call is huge. Like you said, spending 5 minutes on the phone, you can determine if you want to work together. Not 100%, but you can get a good idea of how you connect, and you can answer those questions quickly, and instead of going back and forth. The only problem is a lot of millennials now want to just talk via email or via text. Actually, text is huge now, and that's one of the things the Knot talks about is a lot of the millennials just want to talk by text. And Cheryl hated that, my wife, forever, but now she's kind of embraced it because, she can go back and forth quickly, but she also has a record of everything that's said. So I think you need to figure out how the bride wants to communicate and how quickly.
And that's the key point is I think, and Shay, you and I have seen this before, I think there tends to be a habit that a lot of wedding professionals fall into, which is what is working best for them. And if you have all the leads, all the clients in the world that you need, and you have a waiting list and you are in demand and you're not eager for new business, then, you have the luxury of doing that. But if you are eager for new business and new leads, you need to work with whatever your target audience, how they want to do business with you. Exactly. And Tanya, in your case, you want them to get on the phone, and if they're not prepared to do that, they're going to lose leads.
Exactly, and I feel like what you're further to what you're saying before, Brenda, about them wanting to contact the way they want to contact or sort of liaise with the bride. Fine, but I felt like that was almost my preferences in that department were almost used as a way to qualify me as a lead. That, she wants to get on the phone. This is going to be a difficult client. Or I felt like even though, I'm very low maintenance broad and I want to get things done quickly, let's check it off the list. That's kind of how I approach the whole thing. I don't want to spend hours talking about my centerpieces or, my guest count or my perfect colors.
Some brides do.
I just want to get it done. This level of detail stresses me out to the max. I wanted to just go check. It's all done. We're done. This is,
I don't see that as a qualifying factor. Whether it's that's for me personally, and even being on the wedding vendor side, honestly, I see that as being more efficient for us, and I think it for some brides it may be more efficient. I wouldn't ask that question just as a qualifying factor.
And
maybe I should qualify the qualifying factor comment a bit more. Okay. It was with one particular vendor. She was a decorator, and it was. This is a process that rubbed me the wrong way, and I mentioned this to Brenda. It was, I contacted her. Yeah, she was actually a referral from a friend. They did her decor and, whatever. She was recommended, so I thought, okay, I'll reach out to her. I emailed her and I said, hey, can we just get in a call quickly? I'm interested in talking to you about my decor. And then she came back with, wow, I've got this 4-page questionnaire I need you to fill out. Get on the phone. And I said, well, I just want to get on the phone for 5 minutes, and then it was, no, I need you to fill this out. And so I actively made the decision to not go with her because her process was so sort of unyielding
onerous.
to what I was looking for. Sort of, yeah, it was onerous. So I don't know if that kind of deviates from your question a bit, but in that case, it felt like the way I wanted to communicate was a qualifying factor for this standard.
That makes sense.
That was a lot of questions.
I mean, I think if somebody is in a position where, again, it comes back to this topic of your ideal client, and if they want to work with people who want to use those forms and they work a certain way, then that's their prerogative, but they need to understand that they could be an alienating prospective clients because they are stringently sticking to a specific process that does not work for everybody. And that's okay if they understand what the implications of that are.
Right. And what kind of bride they're driving away. So maybe I should give you more detail on how I make my decisions. I like to feel people out before I work with them, and I like to have that personal connection. I don't know if others make the decision that way. Maybe they look at price first, or they look at the quality of what they provide. Obviously, before I contact anyone, I'm pretty confident that the quality is there. So that would be a referral, or I'd look through their website and just have a look at what they did, maybe a few pictures of their floral arrangements or what have you. So I'm already confident by the time I reach out by email or phone that this is someone who could deliver from a quality perspective. So now the next step would be, can I work with them? Do we get along? And then what's the price? That's kind of how I would make the decision. And in terms of what kind of bride I am, I'd say sort of low maintenance bride, but also do it yourself. I like to, I consider myself a pretty creative person, so I like to have a little bit of interaction, with the creative process without telling people what to do. I certainly wouldn't want to get in there and say, this is the way it needs to be done, but having them sort of integrate my vision with theirs and making it all sort of work together. So I'd say very do-it-yourself, easygoing, want to get it done quickly, not a lot of bells and whistles. That's kind of the bride I am. But I was willing to spend a bit of money. So I wouldn't spend, thousands and thousands of dollars on decor, for example. But I would have a few $1,000 to work with.
Right.
So I don't know if I'm a super attractive client for wedding vendors. I'd probably be in the low end of what someone would spend. But I'm still, I'm easy to work with. I just felt like I was sort of discounted as a valuable client because I wasn't willing to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. So
they were asking too many questions up front, basically, before really getting to know you. Okay, and it's almost like an onboarding process for anything that you do. If you streamline the onboarding process to get people on, you can ask those detailed questions later. That's one of the things we do. Is like my wife will talk to the bride first. I mean, she'll have maybe a few basic questions, and it's usually the ones that they send anyway. And then she'll talk to the bride, get to know them more, and then they'll decide from there, hey, do you want to continue this? And then you really start getting into all the questions. But that's from our perspective as far as a wedding planner, at least my wife's. It could be different for each different vendor on the information they need. So I think it kind of depends on the vendor as well on the information they need. But I think they should make it as simple as possible to get the information and not overwhelm the brides from the beginning.
Definitely. And one thing to add to that, this is just going back to I worked in sales and marketing, and I still do to some capacity. Just I'm a writer now, so it's sort of evolved over the years. But when I was working in business development, something I learned is, it's really important, just how psychology works. It's really important to get someone to commit to one small step.
Exactly.
You're not going to go from, I just emailed you to, hey, let's do an hour-long consultation on the phone. It's, baby steps. What's the next step? Okay, let's talk on the phone for 5 minutes. Now, let's talk about pricing. Let's make sure that quote sounds all good. Now send me your questionnaire. So if someone sent me the questionnaire, 4 steps down the line, I'd have no problem filling it out. But it's sort of a surprise that's maybe too early in the process. I haven't quite been warmed up enough yet. Where's my other cat?
I have a question. When you were looking for vendors, when you first started thinking, okay, I need this next vendor, how were you searching for them? Was it referrals, talking to people, or were you just jumping online and typing something in and if you did that, how far into the search engines did you actually look? Was it just the first page? Did you actually go to the second page? How much research were you doing online? Because I know that's one thing that a lot of people have questions about.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So how I would make a decision, a few ways. I would ask friends. I probably send out a text message. Hey, I'm looking for XYZ. Do you know anyone? Have you had a good experience? And that's what I did for one of the vendors, specifically for the decor company.
Mm-hmm.
Another method of doing this is putting a shout out onto Facebook. Hey, I'm looking for this. Do any of my friends know someone who offers this? Have you had a good experience? And then I would combine that with a bit of Googling on my own. So, wedding decorator Vancouver. And then I don't think anyone goes to the second page of Google. If I've learned from working in this business, if you're not on the first page, you're invisible. So
thank you for saying that.
I would check out some reviews, maybe Google reviews or Yelp or Facebook reviews, whatever, and then I'd sort of form my impression. Call the people my friends recommended, call the people I found. And then out of the people I Googled, I would bail if I couldn't find a contact number and say, this is too difficult, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would Google someone else. So if I can't find the contact information quickly, I think that derails the whole process of, the whole people. Yeah.
So when you went to the site, you were looking for the contact information, the basics of what they actually offered, and then maybe price last.
I don't care so much if price is listed on the website because it's all negotiable, and it really, it's tough to put out a price range. And I know for the stuff I do, you could have high or low end of the spectrum depending on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I was okay with a price not being listed. But one thing I was thinking about would be, to get the personal connection quicker, I wonder if it would be helpful to have a little short video, the vendor sort of explaining, this is what I do, and here's who I am, and you can sort of get a bit more of a personal feel without picking up the phone right away.
Absolutely. Video is so powerful, and so many people are just really nervous about getting in front of a camera and wanting to look perfect. And as you can see by what we're doing here, we decided to toss that out the window and just get in front of the camera. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. But I think it's an incredibly quick way of conveying a lot more of your personality than would come across in any sort of email. And in fact, I've had emails from people that not only did it not give me a lot of insight to who they were, it was giving me the opposite impression of who I knew they were in real life, because you lose so much of communication and personality when it's written in an email. So I think that's a really good point.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah, and I think it's, what was I going to say about this? I think my impression of this is people work with who they like first and foremost, and you justify all the rest. It's, I would work with someone who was not as good of a florist as someone else if I felt like they were a really great person. And that's just the way I make decisions. But I don't know about you. That's sort of my observation when I worked in sales, that, what do I call it? Know me, like me, pay me. So they trust and know and like. It sounds cliche, and you've probably heard it a million times, but I think it still holds true no matter what industry you're in. Because think about a wedding. This is, incredibly stressful, and society just says, okay, woman, you're the one planning this now. I don't know. I was lucky enough to have help from my husband. We split it equally, but a lot of times the woman is burdened with the planning. So you don't need to sort of add more stress to that by working with someone who you butt heads with, or having a process that's really onerous. You want to make it nice and comfy and, stress-free. So
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of going all over the place right now. But
no, is it helpful? Pricing is not it's a very, very big question for wedding professionals in terms of how much information to give online, what wedding couples are looking for. And in your case, it's not as big a factor as it might be for some other brides and grooms. Do you find it helpful if a vendor has shown a starting point, like a starting price range, as opposed to no information, or, rather than giving their full package details? Is a starting point helpful for you?
So just to go back for a second, price is a pretty important factor to me. I just don't need to know it right away. I feel like I'm going to find out that information once I talk to them. So does it need to be available on the site? It doesn't matter either way. I mean, a starting point might be helpful, but again, it could turn someone off if they say, hey, starting point $2,000, but then you talk to them and say, hey, well, I actually only want this and I'm going to do half of it. So I'm not sure how to answer that question. Maybe we can come back to it and I'll kind of put it in the back of my head and noodle on it.
Mull it over a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that. It really depends on how high the prices are because...
I mean, I think the reason a lot of folks want to put at least a starting point is to kind of see if you're on the same page, because it is a deal breaker for a lot of people. If their starting point is $5,000 and your budget is $1,000, then you're probably too far away that you're probably not going to come to an agreement. But it's that ongoing battle of how much information do you give to be informative without overwhelming and still give an opportunity to build that relationship and see if you're a good fit. And I don't know that there is a right answer. Everybody seems to have a very different take on what they're looking for.
What I would say is if the customer is looking to stop attracting do-it-yourself brides and they only want the really high-paying clients and that's the market they're going after, then absolutely put a minimum on your site. But if you're a vendor who's more sort of flexible in how you come to price arrangements, then I'd say probably don't put it on the site because if you have an absolute minimum that's just, I will not work with someone unless they pay me $5,000, then yes, please put it on your site because I don't want to waste your time or waste mine.
Right.
See, I agree with that.
Yeah, completely. Let's go back. You talked for a moment about how you found your vendors and that you talked about testimonials and referrals. And do you trust the reviews on a vendor's website more than, less than, same as a review you would find on something like The Knot or Wedding Wire? How do you feel about reviews?
I would trust them less because who's going to put a negative review on their own website? Let's be honest. No one's going to do that. So I feel like so I'll talk about reviews on the site and external sites and then my whole opinion about reviews in general. So external reviews on The Knot, Wedding Wire, I don't even think I looked at them really. I would trust my friend's point of view first and foremost. When it comes to reviews, I take it with a grain of salt because we've all, looked to book something like a holiday. You see that this one person who's absolutely in love with a resort, for example, and you have this one wingnut who's like, I hate it, it's horrible, it's the worst thing ever. So you get a lot of really polarizing opinions online. So I wouldn't let a bad review deter me. But I definitely would look for external reviews on top of reviews on someone's site. So maybe Facebook, The Knot, Wedding Wire, and my friends' opinions would be, and maybe a Google review.
So it's kind of if you're going to get someone,
I think if you're going to get someone to review you, I'm just thinking from a vendor's perspective. It'd probably be better to ask them to review you on Google or Yelp or something rather than send you an email and you put it on your site. I would think that'd be more powerful.
Right. That sort of social proof would be more effective. No, I agree.
So basically for you, in order of importance is probably friends, then third party, and then you didn't really pay attention to the reviews or testimonials on people's sites.
I would pay attention to them. I would it's maybe all working together to form an overall impression.
Most of the times, from what I know, the reviews that are on people's individual sites actually are just copied from their Knot or Yelp or whatever, just so they have them on there. Because not everybody, if they're on their website, not everybody's going to look at them on Yelp or the Knot or Wedding Wire or whatever.
So, exactly. Sorry, one more thing to add, Brenda.
Yes.
I think another thing that's important is if I see a negative review, I think the way that the vendor responds to the review is really telling. If they're really open and saying, hey, sorry you had that experience. We're willing to work with you to come to some sort of compromise, get in touch with us. I would see that as positive.
And then take it offline from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that's very
I
healthy
agree.
social media
Yeah.
crisis management. and
Yeah.
and don't be like some of the individuals we've seen that it becomes a bit of a pushback, and they want to fight about it in a public venue. It's just not the place to do it.
Yeah, and I think if you're pointing out someone else's pettiness, you're always looking petty as a
Yeah.
result. So it's yeah, I think remaining professional, cool-headed, and validating someone else's concerns. We understand that you feel like that, and let's do something to resolve the issue. So having that sort of customer-facing, problem-solving approach, I think, is important.
I have a quick question, and this goes back to the search part of it. Let's say you were searching a venue and you typed in, wedding venue Vancouver. Most of the ones that are coming up first, if it's not the actual wedding venue individual website, is going to be the Knot or Wedding Wire. Did you go to those sites first and kind of look through there, or did you go to actual individual sites?
To be totally honest with you, I felt like Wedding Wire and the Knot, those sites are really overwhelming and just too much information and hard to navigate. So I spent virtually no time on those sites. Maybe Wedding Wire to set up my own wedding website, but I spent very little time on those. So, sorry, can you repeat the question? I kind of
No, basically that was it. Is when you were searching, did you go to like the Knot or Wedding Wire first, because those are usually higher in the search rankings, and then you had the individual websites for the individual businesses. So it sounds like you went to the individual websites for the business. So I'm assuming you're in your mind, if they were coming up on the first page, then they're probably pretty serious about their business marketing and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I might be a bit biased on this because I used to work in SEO and everything, so I know, you could have someone on the 10th page that's really dedicated to their business. So I didn't take that as, the person on the first page is better, because I know
No,
the person
I
on the first
completely
page
get
is
that.
probably more marketing savvy
Exactly.
than the others, but that
That's
doesn't mean they're better at what they're doing. I mean, you have a lot of creative people, very creative, talented people who are terrible with marketing.
You talked
that's perfect.
a lot. You talked a lot about how important the contact information was to you. Did you run across a lot of websites where they didn't give an email address at all? It was just the form?
I'd say most of them no phone number.
No phone number.
A lot of them had emails, but if you emailed them, they took quite a while to get back to you. And the people who did have phone numbers and emails, same thing, took a week or more to get back to you, sometimes 2 weeks. Even the photographer we chose, I know he's incredibly busy because he's really good, but even he takes a long time to get back to our emails. And it's kind of a persistent beef I have with wedding vendors. And I know they're busy and wedding season comes around, but we're all busy. I worked 60 hours a week up until my wedding. I was really busy. So, but I'm getting on top of my emails, right away. So that's the real issue for me. But yeah, so it's mostly, just an email, like an info email. And I thought, oh, you know what? I'm not confident someone's going to get back to me if I email this. Maybe they could have something like, we respond to emails within 3 days. We might just something to let me know, hey, we will get back to you.
Set expectations.
The form, I think there was a few forms. If there was a form, I ditched the site right away because I can't stand forms. So I'm out. I'm done. Form.
One thing that we do is if they fill out the form, it actually redirects to a thank you page. But on the thank you page, it has like a picture of us, and then it has the expectations of this is what's going to happen from here. So they know that, we're busy right now. It may be 2 days before we get back, or we'll be back with you within 24 hours. So we let them know what to expect. And then I also have a link that, if you're interested in these things, you can also click here and learn a little bit more about us or a little bit more about our product or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's all fine. I think there is a psychology around forms, though, that people have a negative feeling about forms. I know I do. I don't know if you've seen this, Brenda, that people don't want to fill out forms, even if it's a quick contact form. I kind of want an email address or phone number, but usually both is what I would prefer.
So here's the thing.
Yeah, I think there's a sense around you want to have a copy of what you sent. You want to know where it was going to. I don't know. Is it a sense of control? I'm not sure what it is, but I know what you're talking about. I personally don't like filling out forms either. If it's the only way I
It's
can reach someone, I will, but
it's weird because I only like forms. If it's got a thing
really.
where I click for an email, I never do it. I only fill out forms.
So the lesson here is provide both.
Yeah, maybe a form. Well, I mean, I wouldn't click an email. I just cut and paste it into my own
Yeah.
email and say, hey. But I would prefer a phone number. I can leave a message. That's fine. But a form alone, it feels like
Yeah.
I have a perception that someone is not going to get back to me. This is going to disappear somewhere, and I'm not going to get a response from this form. Because do they have my email address? It's where are they getting my stuff? I mean, I know there's a spot for that in the form, but it's the psychology you have around forms that it's just going to disappear. No one's going to get back to me. And maybe it is a sense of control. Yes, maybe I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to, spearhead the process and get it moving. Right? When you're planning events, it's difficult to rely on someone else to get back to you. You want to get it moving so you can check stuff off your list.
Yeah.
So if I have a phone number, I feel like, hey, I've done something. I've left a message. I've got the ball rolling. And it makes me feel a bit better about the planning process.
Now, what if
the form, I'm kind of at their mercy. Like, they'll get back to me when they choose to.
the email address they give you is a Gmail or a Yahoo or a Hotmail or something like that?
Oh, that facial expression said it all.
I'm so glad you did that because I hate it when they use those. But so many people are like, well, it's just a Gmail. It has, my brand name at gmail.com. That doesn't get it.
It's like, email me at hotgirl69@gmail.com. It's really professional. You know what I'm talking about. It's like footballhero@12345gmail.com.
So even if it did have the brand name in it, though, so for example, ABC Wedding Planner @gmail.com, what is your feeling about the importance of having a domain email?
I think if you want to take your business seriously, you get a domain email. It's not going to cost you much. It's not going to take very long. If you have a website, you can get an email.
Exactly.
It's not difficult.
Good. I'm glad that you had that to say. So now that the wedding is over, what part of, you saw a lot of websites, you talked to a lot of vendors. What part of a website would you recommend that wedding professionals really take a close look at, that you saw they were doing themselves a disservice and that they really needed to spend a lot more time on focusing on? Clearly, contact information was a very big one, but were there any other areas that would have made the process more helpful for you in the planning?
Maybe if you're a creative professional, maybe invest more in design to show, because if you're someone who's doing something very creative, photography, floral arrangements, decor, I don't want to see a website with Times New Roman on it. I want to see something that's
no Comic Sans.
Shows me what you do creatively, right? That's kind of in line with what you do. But then again, if it was someone doing floral arrangements, I know I use that as an example. It's maybe a bad example. They might not be good at the web design stuff, so that's okay. But it'd be nice if they put a bit more effort into the creative side of their website. And maybe simplify a bit. I wouldn't mind if it's just one page. One page, here's what we do. Maybe here's starting price if they decide that's something they want to do for qualifying leads. And then at the bottom, give me contact details, or even just really clearly at the top, here's my number and here's what we do. So kind of sum it up for me quickly. I don't want to leaf through, 4, 5, 6 pages. I maybe want 1 or 2 to make the decision. So maybe even just a landing page.
Right. So show me what you do and tell me how to contact you.
Exactly. Yeah.
You sound more like the bride we want to work with, but there's so many people that go on there and they want to look at all the pictures on the gallery. They want to look at every page. They're the bride that has the 3-inch binder from when they, started when they were 6 about their weddings, and they're out there. Those brides are out there. Those aren't the brides. Oh yeah, it's fine. Those are just, again, it goes along with finding your ideal client.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think it's important to say that, Tanya, this is your experience, and you are one type of bride, and your experience is not necessarily the same as other wedding couples that people may be looking for. And I understand that because I know we're going to get some people saying, well, you only talk to one person. You can't extrapolate from that. But I think you can get some really good ideas of what are the things that people are looking for, what's important to somebody when they are looking to potentially hire a wedding vendor. And I think the emphasis on contact information is applicable to everybody, regardless of who they're targeting to work with.
Yeah, I think this is great information, but for the people that are watching this, find out, you need to go after who your ideal client is. And how do you find that out? Is the people that you're working with now that you get along with, ask them these same questions, as you're going through the process, and you get to know what they're looking for.
I think that's really important.
Definitely.
So what would you leave those who are watching this video with? What is your biggest takeaway for them in terms of what they maybe want to take a look at?
In terms of their website or their business development process?
Their website process and how they're using their website to communicate with prospective clients.
I would say try to be more personal in your communication, more prompt with your communication. Add more personal details to your website, whether it's a video clip or I don't know what it is, just something, better content maybe to create that personal connection. Have the contact information displayed readily on your site on every page. If you don't have a proper email address, if you're still operating off of Gmail, maybe get a legit email address, and get some sort of phone number where I can contact you from. Don't just give me a form. Give me an email and a phone number. That's what I would prefer. I know not everyone's the same. And also respect the way that I want to run the process and the way I want to get comfortable and move everything along.
Excellent. Thank you so much for spending time with us today and answering a few questions. We had a lot of them. We didn't get to 3/4 of them because we had so many questions and we had to just pare it down to have enough to kind of cover in about within half an hour. So I really appreciate you taking this time, and thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Tanya.